Welcome to The Conversation with Corinthus Alston. Brought to you by CKJ Live, bringing you real-life topics and real-life stories, discussing subjects that matter to you. This is your invitation to listen, laugh, love, loathe, and link up. That's right. Tell us what's on your mind. Now let's get to the conversation.
Welcome to The Conversation with Corinthus Alston. Remember, without the conversation, we can't have the understanding. I want to continue the conversation regarding education for today, tomorrow, and the future, and keep the focus on how do we pay for college for our children. With that said, I have a special guest with me, Christopher Kirkwood. Christopher is a college and career practitioner who has dedicated his entire professional career to leveling the playing field for diverse students in under-resourced communities throughout the Chicagoland. He has a BA in African American Studies and Education. He has served as a Gear Up college and career coach for Chicago Public Schools. He was the Career Access Director at MetroSquash, and currently he is a program manager at iMentor. Christopher has enormous amounts of information that we need to know about. Well, let's get to the conversation. Hey, Chris, what's going on?
Corey, how are you doing, my brother?
Oh man, I'm hanging in there. This is something that's passionate to me. And as I do more research and find out more stuff, I'm like, man, we need to have this conversation about this.
Absolutely. There's nothing more important than getting a head start in preparation for understanding how to pay for and matriculate through college.
Man, you hit it right on the head. So I have this three triangle vision of how I think about it. There's aspirations, right? You know, we grow up, our parents tell us to go to school, go to college, right? And you get that good job. Then there's the dream. You got to find a school. Okay. Exactly. You got to figure out which school you want to go to, right? This is like the student gets engaged, like, hey, I want to go to Kirkwood. But then there's the reality hits you. How do you pay for this?
Yeah.
How do you pay? So my first question is out the gate is that how do you reconcile all three of these? I mean, how do you engage the student or the parent and get them to understand what does it mean for having their child go to college?
You know what? That's such a packed question. You know, I mean, there's a whole lot to there.
Okay. Let's break it down.
I will say, to be honest and transparent, I'm glad to say that the majority of the students that I've worked with, they already come with an aspiration. So, especially now in this generation that we're serving, it's not if I'm going to college. For a lot of students, that's not the main question. The question is, can I afford it? Where can I afford to go? And so the way I engage parents around the aspiration is asking them that age-old question: what do you want to be? How do you want to? How do you actually want to, to change your sphere? How do you want to impact the world? And I know it sounds very cliche, but it still is relevant and it still is appropriate because every student today has access to technology. They can see what's going on across the world, and they want to actually have their footprint somewhere in it. So it still is very relevant, and so it starts with just asking those students the question. And I treat every student as if they are a human being, not a child. I treat them and I give them respect. And what I've realized is that they'll open up if I share that with them. Now working with families, it's a little bit of a difference. But in my experience, once you have the trust and respect given to the student, and parents can actually see that, then that's kind of how you bring the whole family in. And so you can't. There's no college decision that's being made unanimously. Students do not make this decision in a vacuum, so it is so crucial and important to actually have the family in on that conversation as early as possible.
Now here's the question. Do you find it challenging for that student who will be that first time college attendee? Do
Oh
you
my,
find it challenging sort of kind of translating that and getting the parents to understand what does that mean? Because some parents are saying, hey, you know what, why don't you just go to the trade school? You don't need to go to college.
yeah, yeah.
So I really want to understand how do you deal with that dynamic?
So what I hear you saying, what I believe you hear you saying is how do I navigate the first generation college
Yes.
student conversation? And I can
Yes.
tell you myself as a first generation college student, which let me pause really quick. A first generation college student means that it's a student whose parents, neither one of their mom or their dad, has not um, successfully entered college and graduated with a degree. And
Yes. Correct.
normally it's usually talking about a 4-year degree. In some
Mm-hmm.
instances, it could be a 2-year degree. So just want to quick clarify. So I'm one of 6. I am number 5 of my parents' 6 children. I was the very first one of all of my
Wow.
siblings to actually go to school, go to college, and actually
Mm-hmm.
graduate with a degree, a bachelor's degree. And so I know firsthand just how difficult, confusing, overwhelming, exciting, amazing that that role is to be a first generation college student. And I'll
Okay.
say
Okay.
it takes it's almost as if like you have to convince parents to kind of
Okay.
lend their child to a school, so to speak, because there's there's so many nuances in going to college in general, and from a family that doesn't have the experience of what it means, they already are coming into the conversation with so little knowledge. They also
Mm-hmm.
are thinking about putting their student possibly in an environment where there's no family. Many times
That's true.
students
That's true.
actually go away from, they move away from their hometown. And so all of these things are going through the parents' minds. And I mean, it is such, it's not a battle, but it's such a long and it could be an arduous conversation. And what I would say is there are several things that you have to really consider, but the key components is making sure that your student is in an environment where they have supports. And so this could be if your student is looking to go out of the city, out of the country, or
Mm-hmm.
away from your home, visiting. You have to visit wherever that is, and that's even if it's local.
Okay.
You have to visit the college campus. You have to see the people. You have to meet the dean. You have to, sometimes parents need to look the dean or the recruitment person in their eyes. Sometimes we see these college movies where a young African American boy from the hood
Yep.
gets a football scholarship, and the coach has to come to the house, meet the
That's right.
parents,
That's
and
right.
it's the same way for every student, every first generation student. It is so
Wow.
critical for either the college or somebody in my role to bridge the gap so parents feel and they have to trust that they believe that they're handing off their child to somebody who's going to care for them. And it's not just about the education. It is sincerely, wholeheartedly about, is my child going to be taken care of physically,
Okay.
mentally, and that's really one of the largest burdens. Obstacles, for a first generation student.
Oh wow. Wow.
The
See
other,
now,
yeah,
I wouldn't have thought that. I wouldn't have thought that. I thought it would be more of the financial burden, but not. You're saying that it's not just that. It's going beyond that. It becomes more of a. Um, they need to feel they have a sense of support
yes,
when they're at school, away from home, and when they're at home, getting ready to prepare to go to school. That when they pick up the phone, that support team will be there to help them through.
absolutely. And
Okay.
now I'm not saying that the affordability, the cost, paying for college is not a burden. It actually is. What I'm saying is when it comes to families, what they are,
Mm-hmm.
what I've heard the most, and I've been doing this work nearly 10 years
Oh
professionally.
wow.
What I'm hearing from parents is who's going to take care of my kid if they're not at my house? Like, who's going to cook for them? The next big thing, it really is affordability. Now we're in an age where the cost of college has consistently risen year over year. That's one thing
You're a kid.
you've been able to count on. Taxes going up and the cost of college going up.
So you know what? Now I could tell you that. When I first got my degree, my undergraduate degree, maybe 20, 30,000. When I went back to get my master's, man, I almost had to give up a lung. It's crazy. I mean, they were talking about $75,000. I said, wait a minute, $75,000 for half the time. So what? I'm like, is it something special? Or yeah. I mean, so now, I have a 3-year-old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just turned 4. And we just did some just basic projections. If he goes to school in state instead of Illinois, that it would cost for a 4-year degree, we would need to have to save almost $150,000 by the time he reached 18.
Yeah, absolutely. So the average in 2017-18 school year, the average cost at a public in-state school was about just over $20,000 a year.
Now, let me break this. I just want to be clear. So that's just the educational component. That's not if they actually stayed on campus. That's not all the other stuff. That's just the educational component. Correct.
This is like bare minimum cost. The averages. And so you bring up an excellent point. I really want people to be clear and understand. Sometimes we hear that students got full tuition, right? And what a scholarship for full tuition. What that means is exactly what you just said. It's only the cost of attending class. But tuition is not the only cost associated with college. You have tuition.
Exactly.
You have room and board, which is housing as well as the food. And if you live on campus, it is mandatory that you have a meal plan. In most colleges, you have to have a meal plan. So you got tuition, room and board. Then you have some miscellaneous fees, right? Book fee. Most schools will add on a book fee. However, it's arbitrary, right? Like it fluctuates because book fees, it depends on where you get them from. You can buy them new, used. You can rent them from the library. You also have transportation costs. Sometimes, especially first generation students, don't factor in the cost of actually flying or taking a bus from their home state. And we're in Illinois. So from Illinois to wherever they're going to, that's another cost.
All right.
Insurance.
That is.
Insurance.
Insurance.
Yes, insurance.
Okay.
So insurance at colleges is an opt-out program. So what I mean by that is you have to have insurance, right? All college students have to have insurance. They have a couple of choices. They can remain on their parents' insurance, right? And that's nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. But they have to do something. They actually have to go and opt out of the college's insurance. Otherwise, they will get a bill. Yes.
So I have a student. He enrolls in ISU. He doesn't tell nobody anything. Parents got him on insurance. If he doesn't go to his counselor and say, "Hey, I want to opt out," he's going to get another $400 or $500 bill for insurance.
There's going to be a bill for insurance.
Wow.
If he does not, so you have to opt out of it.
Didn't know that.
Yep.
Didn't know that at all.
Otherwise, they will charge you for it. There's just a lot of different nuances when it comes to the cost of college, and it's the main cost, of course, is tuition, but the cost of like living on campus has skyrocketed, man. I went to UIC, and when I was a resident assistant at UIC while I was there. But my first year, I had to take out a loan to live on campus, and it was $10,000 for the average bare minimum, you know, typical double dorm room. I
So
had a
10
roommate.
grand. So,
Yeah,
so, 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 so if you had to do that for 4 years, that's $40,000.
just for housing.
That's it. And you haven't paid for education yet.
I mean, it's just for the place
Oh
to
my
live.
goodness.
Yep, just for a place to
Wow.
live.
Now I did not know that. I did not know that.
And that was on the low end. That was
The
the
low
cheapest.
end.
That was on the, yep. So the cheapest was about, if you had, depending on how many roommates you had. I lived in the
Mm-hmm.
traditional style dorms. That was anywhere from $7,000 to $9,000, depending on how many roommates. However, when I became an RA, I served in the apartment style
Okay.
complex where I had a single studio. But you know, people had doubles, and so this was where everybody had their own individual bedroom, and you know, they shared a kitchen and you know,
Okay. Okay.
like a living space. Those
Yeah.
went, those were about 14 grand
Oh wow.
per person,
Per person.
per person, per
I'm in the
person.
wrong business. I need to go in housing for college students. Oh my goodness.
And let me tell you, they were, it was the housing, it was housing's motto to always have those at full capacity, to the extent that, you know, there was, you know, you remember like upperclassmen housing. You know, there were
Yep.
just
Yep.
some
I remember
dorms
that.
where freshmen couldn't live. I remember one year
Mm-hmm.
in particular, they were under capacity, and so they started opening up the upperclassmen dorms to anybody, to everybody, freshmen. It didn't
Oh
matter who,
wow.
as long as they paid, they could live there.
No. Yep. Wow. Wow. So here's a question.
Hmm.
So they have this aspiration, right? And yet there's the reality part. But when it comes to determining what college and how they go about the college experience, do you sort of help them understand that? And what I mean by that is that, let's say my ultimate goal is to go to Harvard, but yet, um, but yet, do you tell them, hey, you can actually go to Prairie State for those first 2 years, save some money, and then just transfer in? Or I mean, how do you do that in that college selection? Because some people, they come to mind, or I want to go to this particular school, because they're not looking at the finances. They're just saying, here's where I want to go. But do you sort of kind of help them say, hey, I know you want to go there, but here's a way that you can get to that same goal. You may have to take a little different route, but it still gets to the goal.
That's man, that's a really packful question again. Here's what I'll say. It actually depends on, the student
Mm-hmm.
that I'm serving at that time. So what I have learned is that when it comes down to the reality of college, it's really about exposure and awareness.
Okay.
I
Okay.
had a saying, you know, I was speaking with somebody, my wife and I were out, and we were just conversing around education and policy and different things. And I started thinking, like, many of the students that I serve would say they wanted to be an assistant, right? They wanted to be a CNA, a certified nurse's assistant, or they wanted to, they wanted to go into the healthcare, but they would always,
Mm-hmm.
talk about them being aides. And I would always question, why not be a doctor? You know, why not shoot for the stars? And
Yeah.
what I realized is that it was because many of our black and brown students,
Mm-hmm.
they go off of what they see. They select jobs, careers, aspirations based off of their knowledge, the access to knowledge, their access to doctors and lawyers and um, financiers, people in the finance community, people who are entrepreneurs. It can be limited, and so it depends on the student. If I'm talking to a student, like I have a student who is a superstar, right?
Uh-huh.
Black, he's a young black kid, a lot of charisma. When he applied and when he was compiling his list, his college list,
Mm-hmm.
he only applied to Ivy Leagues. He only applied to top private institutions. And
Okay.
you know
Okay.
what my suggestion was to him? Make
Okay. What
sure
was it? What was it?
it was when you get into the interview, make sure you kill it, because I knew he already had the exposure, he had the attitude, but he put in the work. And
There you
so
go.
to a student like him, I'm going to coach him and make sure that he has all of the resources and mechanisms um, to actually speak in a certain way to make sure that they understand he is prepared.
Okay. Now, see,
And
now that brings up, I was going through your bio. That brings up the foundation you have with your wife. Tell us about that. Tell us about that.
yeah, so like I said, this conversation that I was talking about earlier, that led
Mm-hmm.
to us founding the Kirkwood Foundation.
Oh, wow.
I was really kind of, I got to a point where I was really just down about the students that I was serving and how not many of them wanted to get further. Um, and it really just stemmed down to they didn't have the awareness. And I learned that many students were selecting what they wanted to do with their lives, or just thinking about college in their senior year, junior year. And so my wife and I decided to found the Kirkwood Foundation. It's a not for profit in the Chicagoland
Mm-hmm.
area that serves students all around, exposing them to high net worth careers in the STEM,
Okay.
legal, medical, finance careers. So we've
Okay.
taken this,
Okay.
so we've been working with the high school on the west side of Chicago for the last 3 years, legal prep, charter school, and we have been serving to make sure that students have an understanding that Black people are lawyers. My wife is an attorney. She graduated from Northwestern Law School.
Mm-hmm.
At the top of her class. She worked at Kirkland. She summered at Sidley and Austin. And so we showed them that there are some high-powered Black individuals who are out here making a difference, who are making a lot of money, and they're giving back to their communities. I hope,
So,
yeah.
so yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, go
So,
ahead.
and I was going to just add on that um, it's in our nature as African Americans to want to help
Mm-hmm.
people, to want to give back, right? To want to
Yes.
go into nonprofit work, to want to go into social services, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, where I see the problem is that there's so many people who are not themselves self-sufficient and able to give money that they are not expecting to get back, that they need back.
Mm.
And for that reason, that purpose, I thought, why not teach a different way? Why not expose students at an early age to business, to entrepreneurship, to stocks, to getting into the stock market when they're high schoolers. I even, we promote going to work for Google. We promote learning how to code in high school, and and even younger, so that they dream big. We don't want our students to ever stop dreaming, and that's really the goal. So we've taken our
Wow.
students to IMC, which is a trading
Mm-hmm.
trading company. We've taken
Yep.
them to Google, and we've taken them to Black, and we everywhere we go, we try to get them in front of diverse people at those businesses. Um,
Oh, wow.
and
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah,
So for you, the dream is really there's the college selection part, but really to dream, to really dream, to really just say, hey, um, I know what you see, but you know what? You can be anything that you can be. You can be anything. And why settle for this when you really have the ability and the skill set to be the doctor, to be the next lawyer, to be the next entrepreneur, to be the next engineer, and let that help you in your college selection process.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
just a little bit about me. When I was a kid, I always wanted to be an architect. I could draw.
Mm-hmm.
I could draw any building that I seen, and that's actually what I went to UIC for. I went. I declared I was the architect major. I declared my major right off the bat, and I was an architect student for 3 years before I realized I had no clue what that meant. I didn't know any architects personally. I just didn't understand what was going on. And what I
Yes.
realized later on in life is that had I known architects personally, had I been
Mm-hmm.
paired with them, had I gotten more of the vernacular, the resources, the tools of what it meant to be an architect before going into an environment where everybody seemed like they were light years ahead of me, I may have
Mm-hmm.
become an architect. And so
Oh,
that it goes back to that early awareness, early exposure. Many people don't believe that they can be anything they want to be because they don't see it. And
yes.
so for us as individuals, people, we believe what we see, we believe what we hear, we believe what we can taste, what we can feel with our hands. And that is the same thing when it comes to college. You have to be able to see it to believe it. And some people, it takes them. That's why I say every person who intends on going to college, you have to get out there and you have to visit. You have to step foot on that college campus. You have to talk to students. You have to, even get into a classroom and just sit and see what it feels like. Because although I have debt from college, I wouldn't change the fact that I've gone to college.
Hey, yeah, I tell everyone the college experience is really meant for you to understand life. It's that little safety area where if you do go off to college, you go there and you still have the safety net because remember you have housing, you have food. It may not be the best food, okay? You
Yeah,
ain't getting you're not getting steaks and lobsters and stuff, but it teaches you that independence of what it means to really take care of yourself.
absolutely.
And I think for me, when I mentor when I mentor students or I mentor young people, part of the thing that I find is that even if they don't have that college experience, or if they did, they didn't get they didn't get the final result of it, which is really trying to understand, hey, here's how life really works. I have bills. I need to pay those bills. Um, when I go to school, the teacher don't care if I show up or not because they still get paid. If you there, you know that's how and I think sometimes we miss that. We miss that. So here's what I want to know. If you had something that you want parents and students to take away, what would be those three things? If you had three things you want parents and students to know about, what would they be?
It's about, I would say, it's never too early to start the conversation
Mm-hmm.
around college and paying for college. There are scholarships that are available right now for students as young as elementary school.
Wow, now that I did not know.
As young as
Wow.
elementary school. So it's never too early to start having a conversation around how to pay for college. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the second thing I would say is that it's so important to expose your child or your students to college, to life on the campus, to college students, and then understand that it's not just about college. Isn't the goal? It's the avenue. It's the method of
Mm.
how students can get to the lifestyle, the livelihood that they aspire to get to. So understand
Okay.
that college is a tool, right? It's a tool. That's what it is. And so I would say get the students exposure. Get them to meet different people that they may be of people in careers they may be interested in going into, and try different things right early on. Have
Mm-hmm.
them to be a part of summer programs, be a part of internships when they are in high school. Don't let them sit at home and not do anything, but exposure. Get them in the arts, music, dance, painting, art, STEM, coding, exposure. It's all about
Exposure.
it's all
It's
about
all about
exposure,
exposure.
learning different languages, learning different foods, right? Learning how to cook, and getting real world experience, adventure, camping, all of those different things. It's all about exposure that helps students to have a more global outlook. So the second thing I would say is
There
it's
you
all,
go.
all about exposure. Um,
Okay. Okay.
The third thing I would say is learn how to advocate.
Okay.
Learn how to advocate. A lot of the college experience is understanding who and what are resources. How do you utilize resources? And when you get in the bind, how do you advocate for yourself? Or who do you get to step in on your behalf to advocate for you? It's a lot about agency, and that's something that we have to teach. We have to teach our community in general, whether it's college, going into the trade, going into whatever the post-secondary option or pathway is. We have to teach each other and especially our younger generation how to advocate for themselves. And until they understand it, we have to advocate for them.
Yes, true. That's true. I find, as a matter of fact, all three of those are huge. Especially that one right there. You took. I was listening to it, and you're right. We don't know how to advocate. I think correctly. I think a lot of people they let their students or their children flounder, and sometimes we need to step in. Not, we're not being a crutch, but we just need to step in so they're getting the information that they need, the tutors that they need. It's not that I used to grow up. It's not that you don't know. It's there. You just have to go get it.
Absolutely.
It's there. You just have to make the effort to go get it, and you'll be surprised how teachers, faculty, counselors will basically bend over backwards to make sure that you're successful.
Yeah, when you put yourself out there first.
Yes. Yeah. But you have to take that step. And you'll be surprised. Well, wow. See, I told you are a wealth of information. And like I said, I'm really excited about this. Like I said, this series I've been doing around education, because I think sometimes we really don't understand it. We think we do, but we're just in that generation now where we have all these options around education. Mm-hmm. Before we didn't, but now we have all these options, and I think we need to sort of kind of understand them, understand who to reach out, who can help us. So, is there a way that people can reach out to you, or do they reach out to the not-for-profit? What would be the best way that they can reach out to you to sort of kind of help them figure out which way to go?
Yeah, people can reach out to me at the Kirkwood Foundation. It's the Kirkwood Foundation at gmail.com. You can also reach out to our Facebook page, the Kirkwood Foundation. You can, look me up on Instagram at Chris, CHRIS _Kirkwood, KIRKWOOD 88. So that's Chris _Kirkwood 88 on Instagram. So those are some ways you can reach out to me.
All right. Well, again, thank you very much, Chris, for having the conversation. Again, my motto is, without the conversation, you can't have the understanding.
Thank you for being a part of the conversation with Corinthus Alston. Brought to you by CKJ Live. Come back and visit us again to hear more real-life topics and stories that matter to you. And remember, without the conversation, we can't have the understanding.